Okay.
So, welcome. Hi. We are
Good
trying to
morning.
be professional today.
I'm
And yes,
excuse.
please go ahead. Go ahead.
I am so excited. I apologize, but I'm
okay.
excited.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm excited too. And I have to stop talking with my hands. That's something I do, right?
Well, if you do, I do too. So we better not do that.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody, once again here. And we are so delighted and happy to be with you as usual. Today we have Wednesday, April 17th. Oh my, we are closing up to mid-year in a couple of months, right? 1.5 months, maybe, something of that nature. You are watching Cosmic Guardians, and we will be live with you every week, this hour, your time. In my calendar, this is on Wednesday, usually at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Central time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Sweden, and 8 p.m. Greece. So we are around the globe. How wonderful is that? But I think I'm going back and forth. I'm Anne, coming to you live from Sweden today, and my beautiful, wonderful co-host, Corinne Mooney, is coming to you live from Arizona in the US. So beautiful. Today we will talk about perception versus perspective. That is a really intriguing topic. Plus, your questions and mini readings during this live. And Corinne is the experienced one. She's going to give you answers to spiritual questions. She's very good at that. And I can do mini readings if anyone would like to have a mini reading. And if you want to have something done or you have a question, please write it in capital letters so we know that you are stating a question. It's easier for us to see. It's popping out, right?
Correct.
Last week, we talked about planetary energies, how to navigate. Would you like to recap a little bit on that, Corinne?
Well, it's been very interesting. A lot of my people that are coming to the meditation class have been having some amazing experiences as far as sleep and so forth. And I've been watching some of the comments, and people have a tendency sometimes to go into the negative. Oh, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not sleeping well. And sometimes if you think of it as it's just breaking up all of the stuff that needs to be taken off, like cleaning, and then it gives you an opportunity to really move into other things that you just didn't perceive before. So notice how I got that in there, a little perception. Yes, but it's been quite interesting.
It had been quite interesting, and a lot of planetary combinations and energies and things of that nature. Last day today, Mercury retrograde. Yay!
Yes, and the moon, she's just shining
Yeah,
over here. She's
but I
doing.
think the moon is going to be full moon in on 23rd of
Yes,
April. Yeah, and that's closing another cycle, right? It's going
correct.
to be smashing. I'm trying to dig more into sun flashes and flares and stuff of that nature and the energies and other things. So coming back later on. Right now it's self-studies, right?
Best kind.
That's wonderful. So I talked to you first, and now I'm going to say good morning to you, Corinne.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are, it's a blessed time to be speaking with you.
It's wonderful, always wonderful, and it is really, truthfully, my honor to be on here with you. Really, thank you.
We could go round and round on this one, so thank you
So-
for having me here.
So, today's topic, we wrote something about this too, through different lenses, how we perceive perception versus perspective. I think that's a juicy one, right?
Very, and if my tongue is going to cooperate, it's going to be rather interesting, but it's it's like a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister, actually, but it's we can talk for hours, I think, about this topic, because perception and perspective and all of that good stuff has a lot of things to do with where we come from, what we have been taught, things of that nature, how we, from what angle we see things. Because if you honestly would ask 10 people, they would probably have a different perception of things. Sometimes it can be just a tiny thing, other times it's going to be bigger, right?
In fact, in group, it was brought up that siblings can be living with the same parents, have the exact same experience, and it is totally different. There again, that's coming from your perception on how you view things in life and how you see them, the colors, the sounds, and everything else, and then what your thinking is at that time. So it's amazing how, as you say, we can see the same thing. And an interesting thing that I came up was this beautiful picture of deer that were crossing the road in a, and the cars were waiting. Now, are the deer crossing the road, or is the road crossing the forest?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So from the perspective of the deer, the road was crossing the forest and in their way. And with the cars, they were crossing the road, which was in their way. So it's an amazing way to move through life. Yes.
It is an amazing way. And I'm just going to read a little bit about an explanation about perception versus perspective. And then we can continue, right? So, perception is the immediate way we interpret sensory information. It's the initial data point we receive through our senses. The vibrant colors of a sunset, the calming sound of waves, the taste of a cherished family recipe, right? But also in my own way, how I perceive things, it's how I go with it. So when we want to change perception, we need to expand and we need to change angle, seeing things slightly different. And that can be, it's so easy to say, but we also need to, when we are willing to grow and to understand things, that is exactly what we need to do, right?
Correct.
Perspective, on the other hand, is the broader framework through which we view the world. It's influenced by our experiences. Yes, I kind of maybe mix the two up. So maybe you are the better teacher here today. Influenced by our experience, beliefs, values, culture, and even our faith and things we have been taught then, right?
Correct.
It acts like a lens, coloring and shaping how we interpret our perceptions. Yes, interesting. What's your take on that?
We are given all of these senses, and that's how we really get around the world. That's how we really navigate. And the sounds and the colors and the thoughts that we have that give us a direction that we're going. However, how that gets influenced, there again, from the beliefs and the values of other people and their perception of what was happening, they then influence us with their idea of what's going on. So learning how to trust ourselves and become that authentic person gives us a much better way of navigating our own life, because we're not falling back on the media, on friends, on family that said, oh, well, that person wears red, so they're bad, or this person this. So it's an amazing thing to find your uniqueness and be able to move away from others' assumptions of how things should be perceived. So
Exactly, because in this world, we are put in some sort of framing. This is how things should work. This is how it's acceptable to manage something. And now I'm not talking about stepping outside and doing harmful things, right? But being bold enough to have a little bit of time quiet so you can hear what does feel right for me. If I have a perception or perspective of something, where does that come from? Can I feel in alignment with that? Or do I sense or see or feel or perceive that that is having a different meaning for me, right? And it's a never stopping journey. It's a continuous journey, isn't it?
it really is. It really is. And using the gifts that we have to navigate around this beautiful planet that we're on allows us to be able to be of assistance to other people in great ways. And that comes from finding who you truly are and what you wish to do, and not be shaped by the influence of others. This is a lot of it also. And how do you want to translate what you're seeing? How do you want to interpret that? We can be sitting, and I think you mentioned we could both be sitting in the garden and have different ideas of what it means to us. Do we want to be in communion with nature, or do we just want to enjoy the visual beauty that we're seeing? So it's an amazing thing to have, and it's a guidance that we can use. So it's good.
Yes, it is actually a wonderful guidance. And it takes courage to question, because it comes to a certain point also when we are starting to question. So I see this. This is how I know that I usually respond to something, because there is a response, and the response comes from what we feel familiar with, right? So we usually adapt to things. It's like, I think it's interesting to talk about symbols,
Mm-hmm.
because symbols can be something that we have an idea. This is the meaning of this symbol. Doesn't necessarily mean it's coming from somewhere, right?
Correct.
Someone started it off, someone's perception and perspective on a certain symbol created something that we adapted, or I adapted, right?
And you'll find that, and things that look the same, like just the simple things of a cross, they mean different things to different people, different cultures. And this also has to be, there again, culturally taught. There was a song that was written a long time ago. A child has to be carefully taught. They're not born to hate. They're not born to see other people have different color. They're not born with they just love each other. They're just children, but they have to be carefully taught to perceive that when they see a certain thing, that they're going to respond in a certain way. And as we mature and get to the point where we can start realizing that there's more out there and not being confined to other situations, allows us to really then begin to connect with consciousness and move beyond the limitations of just what we have been taught. So it's kind of an interesting dynamics. It really is.
It is. And I have a great question for you.
Oh,
Oh, oops.
oops.
Why does it matter to pay attention to perspective and perception?
That is an interesting question. And I would have to say, in my limited knowledge, that because this is what actually makes us up. This is what we really are. We came here to experience this lifetime. We came here to experience all the sensations of it. And learning how to have something that's going to actually give us a little bit of a direction is going to allow us to really find more of who we really are. And if you're willing to look with inside yourself, that's where the magic happens.
It is. So my take, I can add something also, because you're so correct. That it makes us being open-minded, right? It opens up the world for us when we step outside that comfort zone that we can feel it is sometimes, to just keep on moving forward with what we think we know, right?
Correct.
How we have been taught things, how things should be. I'm a little bit of a rebel when it comes to that, because I always say, okay, someone says to me, this is how this should be done. And I say, okay, but there are probably more ways. Yeah, but this is how it should be done. And I say, says who?
I would have seen that in you. And I realized one day I was speaking to one of my teachers, and I said, I had no idea that I was a rebel. I'm this wonderful, sweet, passive person. She looked at me and just laughed, belly laughed. And she said, are you kidding? You're the definition of a rebel.
Good.
And that is true, because in order to really move forward, to question things that, like, you see an injustice. Now, are you see the injustice because of what someone told you to see, or actually feeling what that other person is feeling? When you start developing empathy, then you're actually sensing what that person feels. You're perceiving what they actually feel, not just watching it play out. That is building your empathy. With empathy and compassion, then we're able to really be there for people that are maybe having a struggling time. So it's amazing how we recreate ourselves.
Yeah.
And every day is a different perspective that we may see, something else that we may find that we want to. I like to think of it like a gem that you're creating, and the jeweler takes a little bit off, changes the angle. With that angle, changes the perspective and the perception of the gem itself. Now it has the ability to have all of these sides that can catch the light and shine it back. And this is what's so exciting, because as we do this with ourselves, something new shines, something new shows up, and it's. I just get a little excited. I'm sorry.
No, I'm loving it. It is for one to get excited actually. And the story you told about something going on and people having different ideas and perceptions and perspectives about it, right?
Yes.
Makes me come into another kind of thing. Maybe I'm expanding myself outside of the topic now.
That's
But
okay.
when we come to that place when we say, I know the truth, well, ask 10 people. Everybody's going to have their perspective on the truth.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I'll give you even a little deeper input on that. When the Spanish came to South America and the Indians went out, and all of a sudden men just appeared right on the shoreline. Now the shaman was wondering where these men came from, because the Indians had no perception of a ship. They'd never seen a ship. So they couldn't imagine a ship. No one had told them in their culture that there was a ship that would be on the water. So they could not see it. And this was written down by one of the conquistadors. So I'm not just bringing this from nowhere. It was actually written. And the shaman stood there and kept looking and looking and looking. And then all of a sudden the ships appeared because his perception changed. And he was then able to see how they got there. So this is the same with us. We can be in the same situation, but our backgrounds and maybe the color is something that's not familiar to us. So we see things differently. And being able to, as I say, go with the flow and be able to change without taking it as a challenge is a valuable tool also to have,
I have another great question for you. How
Oh.
does someone do that?
Okay. All right. What is your question?
How can we shift our perspective and perception?
Okay. By being willing to accept and modify hardcore things that have been gone in. And that's why when I talk about finding your authentic self, you are more inclined to be out of the box. You're not hardcore into that this is the only way I think and this is the only way I'm going to respond. And that when you do that, you see so many more things. There are so many things out there that are just waiting to be conceived. We live in this sensory world, and I guarantee you 90 of it we do not really see, except occasionally. And you may be moving and all of a sudden you'll get a glimpse of something. Well, where did that come from? There's so much going on out there, but we're kind of in a box. And the more you get out of that box and color outside the lines, that's where the fifth dimension comes in. That's where moving into these higher energies and higher vibrations come in. That just allowing that to happen. And first it comes from reworking what we perceive as the right thing and being able to make a change. So
thank you. Wow.
Okay.
Because I think that that's why I always say it takes courage to do it, because we need to be willing. When we are stepping outside of our experience, that's the place where we feel safe. Even if we want change, we want the change, we want to see the other things, but we are still coming from our experiences and what we have been told and taught. So because it's what we know. So the expansion is actually incredible. And I think that something to remember, not to rush always steps forward, because we very often find ourselves in places where we feel, okay, I don't really know now. I don't want to go the usual route here, but I don't really know. So stop there. Just take a pause, or take a step back, or raise yourself a little bit above, see things from a helicopter perspective. Because when you stop at that moment, that's when you can both hear yourself and see things unfold. So you have more an easier way to see things differently, right? Yes, please. I see that you want to talk.
I'm sorry. I keep thinking about when you watch a baby
Yes.
and they're exploring the world, and they don't have any pre-diagnosed perceptions
No.
at that time. So everything is in awe. And to be childlike when you stop and you look at something and see it through the eyes of a child. Look at that little caterpillar. Don't make judgments about it. Just watch it and see what's going to happen, and be open to all the things rather than judging it. And when we get away from judging what we've been taught, it's amazing the interesting things that you can develop. And it seems like I'm getting the higher dimensions are telling me they want to say something. So may I bring
Yes,
them
please go ahead.
in? Okay. This subject of which you have chosen to speak today is vital. It is very critical, because as you move into the higher dimensions, as you move into the higher frequencies, these misconceptions that have held you back are needing to be gently released. Each time that you are able to move beyond the stagnant of staying in one spot, it allows you to feel the vibration, feel the movement, and move into the higher realms. For energy is flowing, and as it flows and cleans what has kept you stagnant, is allowing you now to move into sights and sounds and feelings that are beyond even your conception. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And I always ask you to please remember that, because I don't.
I'm just going to see, sorry for looking up a little bit here. I'm just going to pick up the stream so I can see if anyone is texting anything. I think that that was absolutely beautiful, and thank you to your guardians and guides and sources and everyone who comes through you, because it is vital. It is really. We cannot expand ourselves if we don't try, and we have to try. So again, here it feels like it's important to question things that we feel are not in alignment with us anymore. And I think that that's a process. It's going to be like we peel that wonderful famous onion again, right? Coming down to layers
Yes.
until we find the answers within. And also, it's a very good thing to, if you feel drawn to something, to read something or learn something, go for it, because it's something that's coming from within, right? It doesn't mean that everything always resonates. Sometimes we listen to something just to make sure or understand that, okay, I got an understanding. It doesn't resonate with me, but now I know that that thing doesn't resonate, right? so I can peel
Correct.
that off and I can continue.
And just be willing to try new things. Again, like a child, they don't question, oh, is this going to do that or is this going to do that? They just immerse themselves in it. And you're very right about everything that someone says is not necessarily for you. And a wise man can listen to others' thoughts, move them through themselves, and find out which one is going to be their assets. Sometimes I'll look at a book and I'll think, do I need to buy this book? And then I'll ask my higher self, is there anything in there that I really need to hear at this time? And they said, well, maybe there's one sentence that you might. And then I go, okay, $474. Maybe I'll wait and not buy that book, and maybe I'll find it myself. So it's being able to start trusting that what you are feeling are your feelings. And this is key. This is really key. Not somebody else's input. Learning to know yourself. I mean, that has been probably the theme of so many people talking. Know yourself. And it's difficult to make change. We get stuck in a routine. And there again, that's where that children don't mind changing. They just keep changing and changing and changing and look forward to it. And we go, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So, but there's joy in that. There really is.
It's a great deal of joy. And, you know, most people, including myself, we ask for, I want this to change. I see something here that I have a goal. That's what I would like to strive towards, right?
Yes.
And then the change comes, and stirring up a whole bunch of energies.
Very definitely.
And then we start to doubt. And I think that you pinpointed something very important too. A lot of people don't really trust their own intuition. So, because I work with the phone also, we work with in the spiritual arena a little bit differently. I talk to a lot of people, and many times they just call because they want to hear what I can see about something.
Correct.
And they very often say, okay, I already knew that, but I needed confirmation to trust what's coming from within.
Correct. And mine is a little bit more hands-on. And I was working with several people this week, and they keep saying, well, this is happening. And I'll say, well, what are you willing to do? What forward movement are you willing to do? I mean, you don't have to make a forward movement. And you can just keep paying me to say the same things. That's okay too, but you're not, you have to take charge and make a movement. And one gentleman I was working with, and I just made a simple suggestion. He's very analytic. And I said, I want you to just get a board and a lot of colors and then just write words on it. Don't write sentences, just write happiness, just freedom, outdoors, and start making it that way. And I saw him the other night and I said, how's the homework coming? And he kind of gives me a little thumbs up, but at least he's making progress because he wants to get out of this rut. And I mean, it would be nice if someone just said, okay, now you this and now you that. But after a while, it gets very boring. So you and I both know that the important thing is to hold the light and say, now, where would you like to go? What is your journey? And
yeah. And I think because we have been conditioned, this is a way to put it, in a certain way, we are to follow. I don't mean now the law. I mean all these cultural unwritten rules, behaviors. This is what you should be. And of course, we should actually nice towards each other. But, we are also here to experience. And it takes a great deal of strength and courage and boldness to step outside. But it's a wonderful thing. And once you do it, you never, ever regret it.
No, you don't. You may have a couple of bumps and bruises along the way. And I know there's several people that I'm also working with that they finally said that they were tired of being tired and made the commitment, changed their mind, changed their thinking, and the universe took over. And they're still kind of hanging on, but with a smile on their face. And so it's when you really change your mind and say, I'm ready to move on, you'll get the help you need. It just may not come exactly how you think it's going to come. But then amazing things happen that could never have happened if you hadn't had a higher power behind you moving it along. So you can't be a sissy. And
No.
I'll tell you, next time I come on this planet, I'm definitely reading the fine print, because it's
I know you are.
wait a minute, soft bed, plenty of food. So yeah, it's you definitely find out. You got to have that courage.
Yeah, I think that, the energy here is different from higher dimensions, obviously, right?
Correct.
So it's more dense, it's heavier. Sometimes I like to kind of talk about it like walking in mud sometimes.
Out of my mouth. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so but we come here, we choose to come here actually. And when we are, in my sense, why we actually are here, to experience ourselves so we can merge the gap between being soul and spirit and the incarnated human being, and getting that awareness to become one, right?
Yes. And it allows us to experience things so that we become even better at what we're doing. And I've had people sometimes say, well, if you're living this spiritual life, why do you have to have a knee replaced? Why do you have a physical challenge? Because I'm also experiencing my physicality. And if I didn't have that experience, I would maybe have the complete understanding of what another person is going through. So don't deny me having my human experience. I'm just lucky that I know that it's not tragic.
Well, I have a secret.
What is your secret?
Not coming back.
Yeah,
Maybe after a long time.
I've threatened that one too, but you don't necessarily have to incarnate here. I've only spent about maybe 10% of my incarnations on the earth plane. So it doesn't have to be this one necessarily, but it's
No, it's just a joke.
it's
I think
good.
that having humor on this path is also it's taking the edge of some things, because sometimes maybe a lot of people take things a little bit too serious. I mean, having to be in a certain way, following the crowd, following all things, right? Does that make sense?
And that's no fun. That's no fun at all. And if you have humor, you can get through. Like I had a little incident where I physically was having a challenge with moving, and I literally could not get into my front door. I'm standing outside the door, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got my little stuff in the car, my little picnic stuff, so I'll just sit in the car and eat until somebody can help me get in the front door, rather than, oh my gosh, I'm falling apart. What's going to happen? And I just figured it was a new adventure. So you can get
That's
through
nice.
it,
Yeah. And I want to mention something else as well that I stumbled much on. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to me, but it doesn't really sit in me, right? So whenever we want to do something, why are we stopping ourselves? Or many people think that, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I can't. And it's like they put restrictions and frames on themselves.
That is, we've been carefully taught to fear change. We've been carefully taught to not trust ourselves. We've been carefully taught to be that we do not have value. And when you start letting go of those things, it is nothing but possibilities. There is nothing that you cannot do. And I have seen amazing things, and even in my own life, creating this healing center. And so when we get past ourselves, when we forgive ourselves and realize that we're a product of all of this perception that everybody else has of us, and they said, well, you have to go to school, you have to do this, you have to do this, follow this line. And once you realize that you no longer have to do that, then there are no limits. There are no limits, and
None. You know what I
none.
say? But I have a very big mouth, and I always say, okay, someone can do that. If someone else can do that, I can too. Maybe I'm going to find my own way of doing it, but I'm going to be able to do that too. Why not?
Yes, I was building. A porch on the back of my house, and I went down and I told them at the lumberyard, I need this, this, and this, and this. And they said, what are you building? And I said, I'm putting a roof over my patio. And he said, well, who's doing it for you? I said, I'm doing it. He says, you can't do that. I said, I don't know. I can't do that. And guess what? I did a better job than somebody that would have done it. So, but
I'm
trusting
sure
yourself.
about it. And I think that sometimes it's like people have to take themselves over a doorstep,
Yes.
or if you see it as a staircase, right? So they
Yes.
have to move forward a little bit and start to believe. Because if we can sit here, anyone can, right?
Exactly.
If someone could build a roof over your porch and you did it, why couldn't you? But it's a common perception, probably because you're a woman,
Yeah.
that
That's
that
part of it. Yeah.
yeah, that you're not supposed to be able to do that. But we have differences, obviously. So as women, we don't have the physical strength as a man. It doesn't mean that we cannot do, and we have been taught by the world what we can do or not. I'm the kind of person too. Give me a drill, and I make something happen.
Exactly. And who knows that you can't do it until you actually go out and make the effort to do it. And as you said, everybody does them a little differently. And but there was a great quote: when somebody's doing something that you think is impossible, don't stop them. You know, just because you think it's impossible doesn't mean that it's impossible for them. And that's kind of a great way to look at it. However, it's even more wonderful when you start saying, I don't know, I can't until I try. You know,
That's a good one.
I did not know that I was going to be following this lifestyle. And here I am. Because I said, okay, if this is where you want me to go, I'll look into it. And that doesn't mean I could have very easily said, no, this is not where I want to go. But I would have missed out on so much.
That's so beautiful, and we are so happy you are here, right?
Uh, well, I am certainly, I'm like that 5-year-old that just got told that they're going to, have Christmas early. So I thank you very, very much, because I am thoroughly enjoying this. And I mentioned to one of my students last night, and I said, I'm just finding myself. And how did I say it? Uh, I didn't realize that I was so bubbly, and she just goes, huh? She just, you didn't know that? And I'm going, oh, well, okay. So there again, how someone else sees you. See, that's also part of the perception too. We live our lives and we may not see ourselves until someone says, wow, do you realize what you just did? And I go, well, I just did what I always do. No, what you did was amazing. And when one person looks at you and sees that magic, you go, I guess I am capable of that. So each person that you come in contact with, you may not know that the words of inspiration that you give them are going to take them from here to here. Always inspire.
Always inspired.
It's never too late to inspire. It's amazing.
No, it's never. But I think that this will also, talking very generally, of course, have taught us to have some sort of competition with each other, right? So we're not going to allow, out of many different reasons, someone to move forward. And sometimes that also comes from some sort of inner insecurity, right? But we need to, if we have that insecurity within, here's something also to think about. That's the vibration we have. So when we are turning that thing within ourselves, when we talked about self-love before, haven't we?
Yes.
But when you have changed your inner vibration, you're going to even inspire others and expand more easily, instead of being the other type. And I'm not judging when I'm saying that. I'm just saying that we can make many changes in the world, right? By doing it and allowing someone, feeling joy for someone, accomplishing something, doing something that they may not have been thinking they could do because they never done it before, but they succeeded. How beautiful is that?
And the interesting thing is that will start happening when we love ourselves. Because
Yes.
when you are producing your own love and you don't need to take it from someone else, it's bubbling. And then when you meet someone else and you share that, and then they can receive it, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it goes then again back to polishing the facets of who we are and becoming the best that we can be, not necessarily, oh, I did this right, I did this right, but being that inspiration to yourself first. When I was going through some, interesting things before I actually got more onto this path, and I had no self-esteem because it was carefully moved out of me. You're not good enough for this. You're not good enough for that. And I kept listening to this song. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing to rearrange. I love myself. I love myself. And I played it over and over and over and over until I started to go, oh, maybe I believe it a little bit, just a little bit. And it's always been a theme. And this is what I came to learn is how can I show you love if I don't love me? And when
Exactly.
you do
And,
that,
we cannot ever find that self-love outside. It's not going to come
Never.
from someone else. We're going to attract it, someone who is going to have the same when we have that within. So we need to always start within. That's how it comes.
Yes.
I had a great upbringing, you could say, and I grew up very closely with my great grandmother. She was born in the late 1800s. How
Whoa.
wonderful is that? Yeah, I think she was born 1895 or 96. And I spent my first 8 years basically with her and my grandmother. They lived in the same building. I had a very modern family, and my mom and my dad, but they were so very young when I was born, right? Not much experience of life themselves. But I remember I had my great grandmother's partner, you could say. That was very bold in those days. They were living together for 40 years because she was a widow, right? They never married or anything, but that was how they lived. I called him grandpa, but he wasn't my grandpa, but that's what I called him. But they always they had a lot of time with me. I didn't go to preschool or anything until I had to a year before I started ordinary school, right? And I was always told that I was capable, I could. So the challenges for me came later on when I was a teenager and a few years of my adult years, when I had people around me who didn't really support that. Why are you going to say that you can? Show yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I now when I look back, I can understand that I got the greatest gift when I was a child, up to 8 years of age, right? I got that.
Yeah.
They gave it to me, and I'm so happy for that.
People are afraid that you're going to move beyond them, and they don't want to be left behind, so they have a tendency to bring you down. And that is our society too, because they're not building anything within themselves to say it's okay, everybody's got a chance to increase and to create. And a lot of times also they'll say things like, well, it's really hard for you to get into that profession. And I got that a lot. And many things I wanted to do. And, but, it's a man's profession. Oh, this, and this, and this. So I just assumed because they were in authority that they were protecting me. And I realized later that because they didn't have the courage to do that, in a way they were protecting, but they were filling me with their doubts. And so there again, that's the belief system. That's our friends. That's our family, and they think they're being helping us, keeping us from getting hurt, but they're not allowing us to find our own niche. And
No, they're not. And also, giving a child, for instance, the security of trying out things for themselves. And sometimes, yes, we're going to fail. It's a part of it. But we're also going to gather or gain the strength when we know that we can.
correct. And if every time a baby fell, you went and scooped it up, it would never learn to walk. So it's allowing each one to expand and to uh, move until they find that it's a little difficult there and I'm going to have to navigate around it. But how can you learn how to navigate around it if you've never taken the journey? And this
Exactly.
this is the same with your spiritual being. You try these different things and you try them on, and they may fit, they may not fit. And then you start molding them into what fits for you, and have that courage to say, okay, I may not be the norm, and I've never been the norm. I have never, fit in. And fortunately, it didn't bother me because I just figured everybody was where they were at the time. Um, but learning to do this with yourself, the greatest gift that you can do is to start seeing what you see and say, is that what I really believe, or is that somebody else's version of what I should believe? And start discerning between the two. And when you start doing this, all of a sudden, you have a different perspective of what you are perceiving. And it's even bigger than you could have even imagined. So,
Yes, it is. It
wow,
is.
just go out there and play.
I'm just going to greet someone here. Nidia. Hi, Nidia. We see you. We can't really answer. I'm going to answer you afterwards. So she says yes to something we talked about here. Thank you so much. And you are showing hands and I'm showing heart as
There
well,
we go.
right?
Yes.
We have a love war continuously going on here, right? But I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
But I think that sometimes, because I didn't grow up like that, they gave me multiple tasks to do. I was always involved with things to do to my level, right? But also to expand. And I think it gives someone very much. I didn't always have good self confidence. It sounds like I had. But of course, I've gone through different stages. But they gave me as a child the ability to understand that I am capable and I can. If I put my head and hands and heart around something, I'm going to find my way doing it. Maybe certain things, if I, as we talked about biology, I don't have the strength as a horse or a man, right? So if we need to have the physical strength, yeah, maybe I need to ask for help. But it gives so much. Hi, Nidia. She's talking to us now. So welcome. And this is from YouTube. That's beautiful.
Wow.
Um, I would like us to be able to answer here, but we can't. But we talk anyway. But it's sometimes when people I've seen this many times when we are overprotecting our kids. We think that we do them a favor. We treat them as smaller than they actually are, not capable of doing things by themselves. It's actually the opposite than to give them the strength and courage and knowledge and self understanding that I'm capable. Actually, kids can do much more than we actually think.
It's amazing. I see these little children from China, 4-year-olds, making their whole meal, working with fire and oil and everything, and because they've given the opportunity. And when I had my surprise package, 20 years after I had the first set of kids, I raised her a little differently, and I took her to a swim class. She was 6 months old, and in the class they also taught them sign language. Because just because a child cannot articulate, this is not developed yet, doesn't mean they can't communicate. So she would stand there and this means happy and this means swim. So she'd go like this in baby talk, happy swim, happy swim. But they taught her this, I can. I can. So they're standing there getting ready to jump in the water and they all go, I can. And giving them, building that self-esteem from infants up, and then letting them do their thing. So
That's beautiful.
you know, and I may do it differently than you do, and it may take me a little longer, and I may have to put dollies and levels and stuff like that, but I'll get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's
yeah.
good. That's wonderful.
So anyway, it's amazing, and working not on yourself, but within yourself. Because I don't need to work. Well, maybe I do, but
You don't. No, you don't.
the inside is where the beauty comes from, is where the connection comes from, and just allowing the possibility of change, just not putting the I can't, or I'm afraid, or it doesn't fit, or what will they think. It's amazing. And of course, climbing up the ladder of maturity gives you a lot more ability to do that. Because you can get away with a lot when you know, are a little old lady, you know. So
Yeah, but I say the same.
you know.
But it's people are so focused in this world many times on how you appear on the surface, but it's also connected to, if you feel good, you're going to vibrate that. And you could take the most picture beautiful person. If they are insecure here, it's going to shine through. So it doesn't really matter. It's coming from here. It's coming from within. Every beauty, every stain of it comes from within you.
It really does.
So, do you want us to briefly sum up something of what we talked about today? I think we've been all over the place. I love it.
We have. It has been, but that's wonderful, because life is all over the place. And
Yes.
You sum up so beautifully. I'm just going to sit here and admire what you're doing, because I really do admire what you do.
Oh, thank you. And I admire what you do and that you're here with me. So happy. So, trying to sum up, we have been talking about perception versus perspective. And of course, as anything else in the spiritual arena, that's going to expand into other areas because it's coming from within everything, right? It's here. And by understanding the interplay between perception and perspective, we can gain a richer understanding of the world, ourselves, and the divine, and we can actually understand much more. Hi, Bob. Bob from Australia is awake.
Australia.
Hi, Bob. We can't write to you here. I didn't actually find the broadcasting here on YouTube, but anyway, now everybody knows, right? But I'll message you later. Bob is the wonderful person who was on a couple of. There is no out there. Hey, yeah, okay, I know. So I know that you're good at perception and perspective. So we can choose to see the world through different senses and lenses, perceptions, perspectives, fostering deeper connections, greater empathy, and more fulfilling life journey. And it's wonderful when we are expanding ourselves and we are pushing the limits from where we think we are, because we are unlimited, right? We're infinite.
Infinite. That's right.
There's no actual limit at all. There are no borders for anything. So beautiful, lady. Do you want to add something?
I just want to tell you again how much fun I have coming on, and am looking forward to more conversations. And I think we've given people a lot to think about, and possibility we have of giving them the freedom to think about it. You are free to think about this. You're free to find how it's going to work for you, and take this opportunity and just play with it, because play is so much fun.
Play is wonderful. You know, that inner child here, that's always going to be with me, no matter how mature I become. It's never, ever going to go away. Never.
Never going to grow up. Never going to grow up. You know.
I'm just going to read something from Bob and then we can wrap it up. So, how I experience my life is only limited by my own imagination, and I am very creative. Yes, exactly. Good on you, Bob.
That's right.
Wonderful. But this is a man who is very, 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 he expanded himself very, very much, just like you, right?
Yes, and I'm still. There are no boundaries. You know, no limitations, and complete possibilities.
So we have a friend here, companion. I love to play and I have no intention of growing up. Good. Me neither. And you neither, Corinne, right?
Nope.
So we will be live with you on Wednesdays, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Sweden and 8 p.m. Greece. And sorry, Bob, I don't really know, but I think it's the middle of the night in Australia. But we can figure that one out next time too. You have been watching Cosmic Guardians with Anne and Corinne, and we talked about perception versus perspective. Digged in quite a lot, actually. It's a huge topic. It goes really deep. Our next live will be on Wednesday, April 24th, next week, discussing Step into Your Personal Mastery. That's another great, wonderful. It's 3 a.m. Okay, you are a creator. I know you are. You create a lot of things. Good on you, Bob. And yes, so Step into Your Personal Mastery with Anne and Corinne next week, same time. And you can follow Cosmic Guardians on Facebook. You can join the group and watch us live at facebook.com/groups/Cosmic Guardians. But we expanded ourselves a little bit, like we are not afraid of doing that, right? So we are now on YouTube as well. That's fine. So we're going to figure more great things out during the trip. And thank you for watching us, and see you next week. Thank you, Corinne, for being with me. I'm over the moon. Love, light, peace, and joy to all of you.
And love, light, and laughter.
Yes. And we see you. That's yours.
That's right. I see you. I see you. So
thank you. Thank you. Bye.
bye-bye.